Hey, it's James. Welcome to LearnLogicPro.com. Today we're going to look at bouncing to disk. So with your Arrange window open, in the upper right corner you have the bounce button, which is added in Logic 8. Bouncing is essentially the idea of mixing down all the tracks to an audio file. You don't have to mix everything down. You can bounce just little pieces, you can bounce just tracks, you can bounce just audio loops. But most times when people consider the bounce, they consider it being the final mix down. So there's three ways to get to the bounce window. I showed one, which is the bounce button in the upper right corner. You can also do Command Option B. And Command Option B is your key command. And knowing key commands is a very powerful thing because it gets you around much faster. Again, if you have an old keyboard, it'd be Apple Alt B. You also have one other option, which is to click on File in the upper left corner and go down to Bounce. There is one other way to do it, which was in the old way, in the mixer, but we're not going to look at that because it's just esoteric at this point. So with the bounce window open, as we look at the dialog box, at the top we have an option to save the actual file as something. So we're going to call this lesson bounce. And where it's actually saving this is inside your hard drive, in the user directory, in the music folder, Logic folder, and bounces. Now, this is by default where Logic saves its projects. If you choose that you want to start saving these to an external hard drive or some other area, then you can do that as well. And of course, it will specify that path. Inside the project you're working on, Logic automatically creates a bounce folder. So it's quite nice in the way that it tries to consolidate all the files in a project directory. In destination here you have PCM, MP3, M4A, AAC, and Burn. First in PCM. These are your standard formats such as Sound Design, great for Pro Tools, AIF, across the board it's a great Apple format. WAV is going to be for broadcast stamping with a timestamp in it, and CAF, which is a new file format from Apple. Your resolutions are 8-bit, 16-bit, and 24-bit. Obviously 16-bit is going to be 6 CD quality, so you're going to want to leave it there. 24-bit is something that you may want to bounce down 24-bit and take it to another studio to have possibly a mix down there. 44.1 is your standard sample rate. You can also do 48 for video and all the way up to 96 and 192. You have two different file types, either split or interleaved. Split is two audio waves, left and right, split. Interleaved is that left and right audio wave, but it's merged into a single file. Dithering is kind of a mathematic algorithm to take a 24-bit file and compress it down to 16-bit without losing a lot of the, quite frankly, without losing a lot of the resolution from the original file. You can also hear it's not checked, but you can also do surround sound bounce if you are doing a surround sound. You can add this file back into the audio bin. Now this used to be add to the audio window in a previous version of Logic, but the audio bin is right here on the right hand side, and it is where all your audio files end up. If you do a vocal, it goes into the bin. If you bring a loop in, it goes into the bin. But you can also bounce and add into the bin. Add to iTunes library. This allows you to bounce this file and it adds it right into iTunes into a specific playlist called Logic Songs. And then at that point you can change the name, you can ID tag it, and you can burn it from iTunes or make it in a playlist or send it over to your iPod. You can also make an MP3 out of this. Now you notice that I'm checking too because you can actually save this and bounce it down as a WAV file or AIF and as an MP3 at the same time. Here you have options in the MP3 for your different bit rates, going all the way up to 320. You can write ID tags and actually do your ID tagging right here. If you did not do it in iTunes, you can do it in here, which is great if you ID your files. Obviously, it's the data is now on that file, and when you send it out, all of your information, including possible copyright information, song title, and artist, is all inside the file. You can also do an AAC, which is the file format that you'll find on the Apple Music Store. An AAC It's what you find when you download and purchase from iTunes, and that's the file format. So it's nice to be able to do those formats to see exactly what your music would sound like in multiple formats and forums. You can also burn directly from Logic as well, which is quite nice if you have to do a project, you need to get out the door, you need to share this, you need to give this to somebody, you need to bounce and burn. That's essentially the option here. As we move down from there, we've got the start and the end point. So if I go into the WAV file, or AIFF, we do have a start point of 1 and an end point of 30. That's essentially the song length. And you'll notice right here under the tempo, we have 130 as being the end of the song, and that's why it's defaulted to 130. Now I'm going to cancel this for a second. I'm going to make a cycle point from 1 to 5, and then I'm going to look at that again, and you'll notice at this point it's now 1 to 5. So you can bounce in a specific parameter set by the cycle point here, or the locating points. You can do real-time bouncing or offline. Now, offline bouncing is essentially a computer process. It bounces down 5-minute song. It takes about 15 seconds to bounce because it's basically crunching the information down, bouncing it as a computer. Real-time, this actually plays the song real-time. You listen to the song as it bounces to disk. Now, I do want to note one thing. Certain tricks, bussing, side chaining, vocoding, these type of processes actually happen in a real-time scenario. So you will want to bounce your files real-time if you are doing certain processy side chaining effects or tricks like that. It will not reflect on an offline bounce. Final is normalize. Normalize is essentially the boosting of a wave, kind of a poor man's mastering, if you will. It takes the audio signal and just kind of maximizes it. So once you're ready to go, you just name what you want to name the bounce as. We're just going to call this lesson 01. And then you click bounce and it begins the process. Now I'm not bouncing anything. There's obviously nothing in here to bounce, but you should essentially see what an offline bounce looks like. Once it's done, gets to the parameters. I was just bouncing 1 to 5, stops, converts everything to MP3 if needed. I'll bring this window in so you can see. Converting it to MP3. So it does everything. Bounces it down to audio, converts it to MP3, all in one shot. So that's essentially Bounce in Learn Logic Pro.